Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the king of podcasts radio network proudly presents
episode 809.
The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Soon to be celebrating the 11th anniversary of the program, coming up on December 18th. It's about 4 weeks away. We have Full Gear coming up this weekend, this Saturday, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. Survivor Series in 2 weeks. We're moving along as we wrap up the end of the year, and then we get into the end of year stuff. But I want to get into something that is overdue to talk about. And honestly, people don't want to go and talk about this part, but like I talked about last week with both WWE and AEW, there's an issue with storytelling on both sides. And now let's get into a larger aspect of it. The reason why the storytelling is suffering and why it's not doing good enough, first of all, as wrestling fans, we need to realize there's a world out there outside of wrestling. And there was a time we all enjoyed 20 years ago where there were a lot of people, a lot more people that are engaged into watching wrestling and engaged in having cable on to watch a TV product. 25 years ago, we all had ourselves flipping between TNT and USA Network. And then Thursday nights for a while watching between, TBS and what was the USA Network as well, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was UPN. We were doing that on Thursday nights pretty rampantly. And the thing was that we were all caught up in the hype and the whole deal of having the Monday Night Wars and the wars all in general. And the level of stardom that both brands had, WWE or WWF and WCW. And ECW on top of that. Like, there was so much good wrestling, so much good of we can always talk about. Even though for me, I wasn't necessarily into what WWF into WWE was doing in the first place, right? The Attitude Era, the storylines being as salacious and as sexy and as very Jerry Springer, salacious tabloid talk show type it was, I wasn't totally into that. I wasn't totally into all the stuff with DX or Test or Val Venus or, all the nuances when it comes to Vince and what he's doing with Trish Stratus or what he's doing with Sable and all that shit. Or Stacy Keibler or Tori Wilson. It wasn't much to me where I overly cared. There were a lot of times where the TV product, I didn't necessarily watch all the way through. When I watched Raw in the late 90s, the 20-minute segment at the beginning, okay, if there's a match or two I want to catch in between, I'd probably flip through those, but I know I'd have to come back for 9 o'clock. And I had to come back at the end of the show. Because usually when Thunder was done, or when Nitro was done, I'd catch the end of Raw. Because they always had a longer overrun. And I'd catch whatever was done there, and that's what I would need to watch, because it was always kind of time like that. You kind of knew when to flip back to Raw from Nitro. But Nitro I would watch the matches. Because it just gave me better, work rate, just moving around. And I was the kind of guy that wanted to watch more of the work rate, watch the actual sport than it was watching anything else. And of course, all the heyday that we're going to have right now with the Iron Claw coming out of the theaters, that might generate quite a bit of people into wrestling because of the stars that are in it, the story of world-class championship wrestling, the Von Erichs, all of that nostalgia, that's a great kick. And I'd love to see how well that movie's going to do. And I really hope it does well. Obviously, the Von Erichs are okay with it. Kevin Von Erich, Marshall and Ross, they're more or less behind the movie. They are out there on the red carpet promoting the movie. So at least, there's something about it where it might not have been perfect, they said. But at least as a representation, it's a chance for their story, the Von Erich story, to be told. That's the best part. So maybe people are going to be really interested again in wrestling, just like The Wrestler came out with Mickey Rourke a couple of years ago. That also might help out too. But what about the actual TV product? Listen, we're happy about the pay-per-views. they're so good right now on both sides. Like, we're not talking about pay-per-views of all this year that were really shit. Like, where was a pay-per-view that we were crapping across the board? Like, any post I've done this year, when have I crapped on a pay-per-view that was like so bad or bland or anything like that? Even the storylines we had for premium live events that might have been predictable, like Crown Jewel. Like, did I really have anything bad to say about it? No. But when I look at all that, and I said to myself, all right, the pay-per-views, the matches, the bread and butter, the what's expected for me as a longtime wrestling fan to be interested and invested in, to spend time and money on watching pay-per-views. You got my money. You got my interest, right? The thing is with WWE and AEW, but like this, for WWE, Peacock has a lot of subscribers thanks to the WWE. AEW is pulling 150,000 buys for their pay-per-views in 2023. And pretty good job of it. And consistently doing very good pay-per-views across the board. I'm going to go back to the Regal again this weekend. I'm going to go catch Full Gear after I go watch FAU and their home closer, the home finale, and finish up their season. You know, see how they work out. If they can make a bowl game. And I look at it and I'm saying to myself, all right, when I try to evaluate what was it that made me watch the pay-per-view? Well, we already know. Look, I mean, at this point, I've been kind of so disconnected from WWE programming. Like, there was a time where I actually did care about making sure I watched SmackDown and not doing anything after 10 o'clock. And until 10 o'clock at night, I would not go to the movies. Now I go to the movies at like 9 o'clock, but not too much earlier than that. But I catch myself more than not on Monday nights. I'm watching Monday Night Football, and I will flip and I will go back and look for things on Raw. But the truth is, the clips on X or Twitter or on YouTube or Instagram, that's more than enough for me. Or TikTok, I'm getting what I need to catch up on. Because what am I missing if I'm not watching the clips? The matches? I mean, sure, you get a little bit of commentary and things like that, the little inside stuff that, you know, we all enjoy. But really, what are you missing if you go ahead and miss a week? Because of the fact that we always talk about soap operas and how this is a male soap opera, male driven. Soap operas back in the day, when they were not so good, yeah, you could kind of skip like a week and you would still find a way to catch yourself back up pretty quickly. That's the other thing you got to think about. My mom, growing up, super big soap opera fan. And my mom, at one point, the VCR, by the way, we went through VCRs like it was butter. I think she went through like 5 or 6 VCRs in 20 years. And they were not cheap. But let me tell you, she was not the kind of person that would just rewind and do the fast rewind across, you know, to go back like an hour or 30 minutes to catch back at something that she missed. Because a lot of times when she tried to go and watch the soap operas, when she got home from work, she would be tired. So sometimes at night, she would have the TV by herself watching primetime. And if there wasn't something that she was going to normally watch, she's watching soap operas. She's catching back up on those. And by the way, and then when she retired, that's all she did. She'd have those 4 hours of soap operas and would be intent on watching every minute of it. And she would go back, rewinding the slow way. So watching as rewinding. And sometimes she would actually even doze off as she rewound for the time she was waiting for that to get back to where she wanted to go to. Because she always had to go back and find out where she was. We don't feel like that anymore. But that's because she was so invested in the soap opera, because there were things that you would miss if you did not catch the show. How many things do you actually miss? When the truth is, we always have so many ways to catch up. A million ways to catch up. Storylines don't move that fast. Storylines don't necessarily move where it's like a scripted TV show, where you only got 10 or 12 episodes of a limited series for a season, and there's so much to cram into it that you got to catch, or else you're going to miss what people are talking about. I remember when we had a lot of things on TikTok where a lot of Twitch streamers were on there doing commentary. Now they're banned from it because of the copyright. But even then, when I would see clips from these particular long live stream watch-alongs, it will be the same stuff everybody else was watching. It will be clips you would be able to watch later. Only difference is the clip of that particular Twitch streamer was showing you their reaction to it. That's it. It was a reaction video. It wasn't anything else about the video itself. But the clips, they're not short anymore. They're 7-8 minutes long. Right? You want to watch the Cody and Jay go after the tag team titles again against Judgment Day? You got to see that. You want to see the full promo of Cody going after making Damian Priest confront and, call out himself to be the leader of the Judgment Day? Yeah. Jey Uso giving the occasional yeet and now becoming a catchphrase on a shirt. That's his thing now, to get people to look at the individual Jey Uso character aside from what he was in the bloodline. The Drew McIntyre story, we're getting him with a heel turn as they are retconning a year-old storyline that they never followed up on, which this company does all the time. What are we missing? Was there anything that I really missed from Raw that was much more important than that? Oh, Zoe Stark confronting Rhea Ripley? In a match that I'm pretty sure at Survivor Series, Zoe Stark's not winning. Right? What about LA Knight? And the whole setup of him, contracts or the promos. I saw all the clips beforehand with Roman Reigns. You're not going to miss those. And WWE is going to make sure to go and put those up all over the place. You do not miss them. You do not miss Roman Reigns. You do not miss his moments and what he says. I mean, how many times did I have to have LA Knight have to recall Suffering Succotash in the early Roman Reigns promos? Well, but the thing is that the engagement with the wrestlers, the engagement with the product is not the TV. There is nothing that layman everyday viewers that used to watch Raw or Nitro or SmackDown or Thunder would catch on and actually just talk about. Like, that's the thing. What do we have now of any of these TV shows? Of Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, NXT, SmackDown, and Raw that really we're engaged on, and we're like, if you tell somebody else, they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that. You would think as a live sport, now of course it's sports entertainment, but as a live sport, okay, the NBA in one night, NBA last night, we could talk about Klay Thompson getting put into or was it Rudy Gobert getting chokeholded by Draymond Green? We could talk about Klay Thompson fighting up against, who was it? Was it the Grizzlies, right? I forget. You get that fisticuffs going on. Anthony Davis fighting with somebody, fighting all over the place. DeMar DeRozan with some amazing assist off to a pass. Mike Conley getting a late jump shot to win the game. Like, seriously. Football, and NFL football, man. When you're talking about, like, all right, let's talk about, CJ Stroud. Another game he comes from behind to win. How about the Broncos coming over the Bills and the win they got off a field goal and that whole mess? Like, think about it like that. All the things that go on in the NFL, and it's not just because we're fantasy guys. It's not just because we're watching the games and we're watching with the bros. It's because there's shit that happens. And damn it, if you're not able to watch the whole damn game and you're missing certain things, you want to be watching in the bar, watching someplace where you can go ahead and catch everything going on, or at least have red zone. Like, you have so many things going on within one day of people watching all damn day NFL and watching every day NBA, the in-game tournament. You're seeing must-see stuff over there too. That's the level of engagement in live sports. And people go around the water cooler, if there's still a water cooler, talking about it. If they're not doing that, they're making reaction videos about it. They are on social media ranting about it. They're all caught up in the Mad Dog Russos and Stephen A. Smiths and Shannon Sharps and, Skip Bayless is talking about it. Sports has a way of doing that, of pure unadulterated engagement. Did you see this? Did you see that? What do we have with Dynamite tonight? Oh, okay, MJF getting pummeled again. What will be eventually, we're going to find out that MJF will probably get his comeuppance at Full Gear, get the belt back, most likely get both the tag team belts and the world title back. I don't know if they're going to go to Jay White yet. Now, they could very well do that, but where is MJF going to come on back? Like, that guy's full-fledged face right now. You can't go ahead and take it where he was going like this and he goes heel after this. It can't happen. And then what else? An announcement that another wrestler that's going to flip over from a WWE that came from WWE that were probably left and let go is going to enter and debut an AEW at Full Gear. We don't know who that's going to be, but the speculation is starting to go. That's one thing. Okay. But what else? What else is there? Oh, what? Sky Blue kind of getting yourself caught up in the House of Black stuff and, missed back at somebody else at Julia Hart. Like, where are the things that were really going on? And as people catch it on TikTok or Instagram or X or whatever, what are the things that you're looking at when you really delve down? Remove yourself as a wrestling fan and actually look at what people would think if they watched what you were watching and what they actually caught. Think about it like that. Because it would be a really interesting thing if we went on and talked about that. Okay, so like for instance, if I'm looking right now on AEW's page on their X feed right now, okay, Red Velvet and Sky Blue, they put, part of the match on there. Nice little 30-second clip. Okay. But is there anything the layman fan was watching on there that's going to really get them caught up? Like, ask yourself that question. And let me keep it looking here. Hold on one second. All right, let me look a little more in here and say, okay, Bullet Club Gold destroys MJF in the middle of the ring. Samoa Joe watches on. The big part they have in there. Jay White doing commentary on promos. A repost of CJ Perry now that's going to have Andrade Idolo that she will be managing, and Miro's now going to obviously attack Andrade, right? MJF with a monster promo. By the way, we're going to play that real quick because I haven't had a chance to go play that yet, but we're going to play it right now.
After the brutal attack on the Acclaim last week, it's become very apparent to me that no matter how hard I try to outrun my past, it's going to keep on catching up to me. And although I keep trying to better myself, every time I open myself up and let somebody in, those people get hurt.
Now, the ongoing storyline of MJF is the most compelling storyline they have in the whole company. MJF, the champion, he is like the lightning rod. I think with everything that goes on with him, he's the one that's going on other TV shows. He's getting noticed. He's getting out there promoting as the champion. And they've kept him as champion for a long time right now. Because of the fact that he won at Full Gear, coming up on a full year as champion. And so All Elite Wrestling on their X feed put a 3-minute clip, mostly the MJF promo, to get the point across, to make sure to promote Full Gear, to promote Dynamite itself, and put it out there so people were noticing. And this was actually put out, 10:30 tonight, half an hour after the show was done. But if you missed something, this was something that was so important. They put so much of the show, 3 minutes worth of this promo on this feed to get engagement, because people were paying attention to MJF, seeing the Burberry, and seeing a whole lot about him, where people have seen memes and things about him being a villain and an asshole and this and that. And now they're watching this redemption angle, this whole babyface thing, which has been very compelling. And people could obviously stay in there and be glued to what's going on right now with MJF. And maybe fans outside of the normal gamut, your younger fans are probably paying attention. And then maybe some other people outside of the normal deal are paying attention, saying, who's MJF? And they're trying to understand what he says. In the caption they put on here on the video, quote, "I'm afraid, but it doesn't mean I'm willing to quit. Yeah, I'm afraid, but it doesn't mean I'm willing to give up my spot at the top of the mountain." So here's more of that promo.
And I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel cursed. So what I would like to say to the Acclaimed is the same thing that I had to say to Adam Cole. And that is that I'm sorry that you got caught in the crossfires that is Maxwell Jacob Friedman's life. I am sorry that you got hurt, and I hope you feel better. You know, ever since I can remember, all I've ever wanted to be is a world champion. And I have spent my entire life, every single waking, breathing moment, trying to make that a reality. And I am proud to say that I have made it to the mountaintop of professional wrestling. But that mountaintop, it's not all glitz and glam. You see, the air up here, it's thin, it's daunting, it's lonely, and as I look down upon this mountain and I look in every single direction, I see men climbing with the only intention to shove me off the top.
I really love this promo, by the way. MJF has really become his own as a babyface. He's not inferior. He's not a weaker character. He's still very compelling. We're blessed right now that MJF is right now on our screens on a regular basis because he is doing tremendous work as champion. I've really enjoyed his run. Now, it hasn't been perfect. I mean, that's also the part where MJF can only carry so much, but they put him in good feuds. They've made him strong. The Adam Cole stuff was a very good move for them after they finished up having a match with them where they went to they had the match at Wembley Stadium, and to continue going on with this best friends angle, and a lot of talent is getting to rub off on it, just like what the Bloodline did. The Acclaim getting into this, Jay White, Bullet Club Gold, Samoa Joe. You attach, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and you add what? Matt Taven, Mike. Just think about all that. Look at everything you're getting out of all this here. That is just pretty cool. A lot of talent getting all involved in this storyline, and it's all centering around MJF, one guy. So much that goes around it, which is what you need to do. You need to have something where you have such a lightning rod on there, which is what Roman Reigns was becoming for everybody else. When you have the Bloodline and Cody, and Drew McIntyre for a while, and Brock Lesnar for a while, and you include Judgment Day into it to get the rub off on them. Like, that is part of the thing where when you have stars at that level, I mean, listen, we got MJF, he's a full-time, and he's on our TV screens on a regular basis. As long as we got him on there, I mean, people are still watching. They might not be pulling the million viewers because for AEW to pull those million viewers, they need to have some much more familiar, long time on our screens talent that the wrestling fans will come back and watch. But until then, they need to really go ahead and bring on other things that are going to be shiny carrots that are going to be dangled in front of viewers, or things that are going to get viral that will cause people to watch the show and I want to watch more of this, more than what I'm seeing on social media. So we have to go farther than that. Back to MJF.
And I'm man enough to admit that I am afraid. I am afraid that I could lose everything that I've worked for in the blink of an eye. But most of all, I'm afraid that I'm going to do to you people exactly what I did to Cole and the Acclaimed. I'm afraid I'm going to let you guys down. And the old me in this situation would have tucked his tail and ran, but you know what? I'm about done letting my past dictate my future and my present. So yeah, I'm afraid, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to quit. Yeah, I'm afraid, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to give up my spot at the top of the mountain. Yeah, I may be afraid, but you better send a whole damn army to get my ass to come down.
Something to be said about where you want to have MJF sell the pay-per-view, you want to get him on TV on that go home show and hit the nail on the head, take him home. Like, really, they did that. Kota Ibushi, by the way, is all elite. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to be like regularly on, or like how much he's going to get to go and work for a while from New Japan, and how much they'll go back and forth. But I guess, something like that. So yeah, you got that. And you're saying to yourself, that's good, but it's not enough. I mean, think about it like this. You have to realize that with next to nothing sometimes, there are content creators now on social media, say TikTok, for instance, that are able to go ahead and put on a live stream, and they can go and have people hold on and hang on for hours. Or how about any, particular shows that have like a podcast, and they put on a 2 to 3 hour show. And then they're trying to go ahead and do clips that people might watch, but then you also got to see yourself, well, what about the fact that, how many people are actually going to stick around and watch the whole damn show and watch full 3 hours? Like on Raw, WWE is trying to get the audience to stick around for 3 hours to watch. Okay. And we see the difference, right? Like, all I got to tell you is this: when you compare what's going on with, just think about all this. Okay. In the ratings that are out there, we always talk about how the ratings are a bit different altogether against Monday Night Football. Well, let's look at it again. All right. Monday Night Raw on Monday night pulled 1.467 million viewers. That's still easily down 400,000 viewers from where they normally are before Monday Night Football's on. 18 to 49 demo was down. And by the way, we had the Broncos and Bills on Monday night. That was the game we had. It wasn't necessarily top notch. Like, the end of the game was better. But that shouldn't have affected the whole game itself. Like, the Bills were just kind of stinking it up. And the Broncos stayed around, and they were able to win. But, like, they pulled on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC, 17.7 million viewers for a 3+ hour game. That was more or less compelling across the board. What is it that WWE is not doing in order to be able to get the same kind of audience? Ask yourself the question. As wrestling fans, we don't want to do that. We want to just kind of feel like, well, this is only what matters to us. Well, WWE can't think that way, especially with TKO Group Holdings now, with a new ownership. By the way, Vince McMahon dumped a lot of shares, sold a lot of shares, but for roughly $9 billion? Like, he basically just sold off what he earned from the sale of WWE right now. So Vince McMahon no longer is an influence in what WWE is anymore. Triple H is. It's done. Vince McMahon, and you know what? When I saw him at Saudi Arabia with Undertaker and he's holding the cane, he didn't look good. He looked frail. And yeah, the spinal surgery is one thing, but let me tell you, I guess that guy, Vince, is not going to be a major factor anymore. He is not day-to-day anymore. That's it. Done. He's been moved out. And that's all they want to do. Which is fine. But the real engagement of what they do on Monday Night Raw to get people all watching. Now, to have 3 matches announced beforehand, and they did, right? So the tag team titles, that catches attention because you got, Judgment Day, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, which they put a lot of capital into, front and back. Tommaso Ciampa, Ludwig Kaiser, Otis, Shinsuke Nakamura. Those are just run-of-the-mill mid-card matches that you're diehard wrestling fan will probably go and watch it. Those are some good matches, right? Okay, so good matches. But what about the bigger picture? What else do you got? Besides that first start, okay, when I saw WrestleNomics put out the breakdown of what people were watching, I looked at it and I'm saying to myself, all right, well, it's not much. Like when you look at what they have as the breakdown of what Raw was doing, you see that totally change up. Like, for instance, all right, in the quarter hours they show, this is from last week, by the way, quarter hour viewership, 1.726 million viewers. So at the beginning, you are getting yourself started off with an audience that would stick around. So like the first 15 minutes, remember, we don't have anything going on with Monday Night Football yet. It has not started yet. So you get the 15 minutes to try to hold on to people. And last week, it was a recap of Crown Jewel. Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn in a live promo to set up with their match later in the night. And how many people stay around for that? 1.371 million viewers. That's it. That's what we got. But immediately, second segment, 8:15 to 8:30, the quarter hour, the live promo continues. It rolled in, and the Judgment Day backstage, Angle, New Day versus Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And that held up a little bit. It held up a little bit. But then we get the drop. Because after that, we go to Drew McIntyre Angle, and then Shinsuke Nakamura and Akira Tozawa. Yeah. As soon as you go to the mid card, as soon as you get away from anything main event, people just drop off. Drop right off. That is very indicating of where things are right now with the product. So your mid card, your layman fan doesn't give a shit about. They only care about the main event. That's it. So the undercard is so undercard, nobody cares. And then the matches you have in between. Where are there stipulations? Where are there things where there is, something that when you have a match, it's not just a match. That there's something that is significant to the match. Like, we don't have that. We don't need to be stipulation matches, but need to have something where the matches have purpose. But remember, when they do their matches throughout every week, like, break it down. Okay? Adam Pearce had an announcement. Rollins and Pearce are backstage. And then they go in the start of the second hour. Miz and Ricochet versus Ivar versus Bronson Reed. That's the match. Now, who out of all that right there is going to catch up and really pay attention to that match? Anybody? And then you go and move along. Okay, Alpha Academy, Maxine Dupree, Creed Brothers, Ivy Now, DIY. Look at the parts where the NXT 2019 crowd are in this, right? Listen, the new NXT crowd of Creed Brothers, Ivy Nile, you put in over here, DIY against the Creeds. Let's go NXT on it. Because so Triple H, so Shawn Michaels embedded into the cake in this. And they let the match go long. And then we get to the 10 o'clock hour. Women's Battle Royal contendership. Yeah, contendership for the Women's Championship. That's it. And then, really, you look at all that right there. It's not good. Where's the engagement? You're not seeing it. So everybody can go and complain about what's going on with what they're doing. But it still doesn't explain everything. NXT last night, 703,000 viewers. Okay. And of course, they'll show the other parts about what the quarter hours look like for their shows, right? I'll let you go to WrestleNomics and look at that, which is nice when they do that. Let's look at the Collision from November 4th and their quarter hour breakdown. Well, you can't do anything about Collision because they're going up against a billion college football games. It's not easy for them. When I look at what games do we have in contention with AEW Collision right at that time when they were going on on November 4th. if we had to go back to that right now, if I go on my app right now for the score, and I go back to the scores, and I go all the way back to what? Well, it won't let me go back to November 4th. It only lets me go back a week. Let me look real quick at what the schedule was for college football that night. And I'm going to tell you, once I see that, it'll tell me everything. So off the bat, what you had to watch on Saturday night that was going up against Collision, Hurricane against North NC State, or whatever. Okay. Let me see here. You had BYU and West Virginia, Big 12 action. Big 10 game, you had Purdue and Michigan. SEC, LSU, Alabama. It's a lot of games right there that you're not going to get to overcome, and they're not going to have enough on Collision to really build up. I mean, for them, they're just giving you bread and butter Collision. They're just giving you good matches, but like, there isn't a lot of people right there in the Collision lineup that's going to be like over the top, viral. And viral among wrestling fans. Mogul Embassy, sure. I mean, I'm looking right now and saying, I'll say, what else? There wasn't a lot here that was on a Collision show that would have that much. And they stayed with between 395,000 and 410,000 at the end. And the overrun was at 10 o'clock, and it was actually going up at the end. So the last minute, people were still watching. But then you just got to say to yourself, well, and then let's look at SmackDown, right? Which, by the way, unopposed. Unopposed. Lead up to Crown Jewel. Start off the night, it's the fallout from LA Knight, Roman Reigns. So you got that going on. And then LA Knight, and that whole angle going on as well. Again, LA Knight, Roman Reigns. That goes into 8:30. And they hold the audience. And then right when they go to Kevin Owens and Austin Theory, and they go to Bianca Belair and Damage Control backstage, it just kind of lulls back down. Charlotte Flair, they featured in the 8:45. John Cena, he comes out, holds the audience steady. But then, let me tell you, once they start putting some of the normal kind of run-of-the-mill mid-carders, as soon as John Cena leaves, Pretty Deadly against Rich Holland and Butch, and a drop. And is anybody going in to do anything about, like, caring about Pretty Deadly? No. And Bayley and Bianca closing out the night, and it dropped off completely because people were just kind of, tuned out. It wasn't enough invested for people to go and watch the end of Bayley and Bianca Belair. They didn't care. Just moved along. To make the TV interesting, there has to be something more that gets done. Some changes need to be happening. The way that the TV shows are done need to go in a different direction. And, for a little bit, I think AEW, when they first came around, they started kind of giving people the feeling that they were trying to do something, right? It was one of those things where when both products were actually trying to compete against each other and push each other, there was a bigger story. I want to go back to September 2019. And I talk about Fox and AEW's effects on WWE's product. I'm going to go and play this real quick. You got to say to yourself, wrestling is getting so crazy, and WWE, being the giant behemoth that it is, the 500-pound gorilla, if you will, for them to be so affected and so distracted by what's going on here because of no fault than their own, because they made major mistakes for many years, which continued to erode the audience that would watch this product and actually hurt all the major independents and wrestling in general by not being a much more forward-thinking brand. Now, I go back and talk about that. Always remember, Now, no matter what you want to say about AEW or any of the other brands that are out there, and how well they can go and do, you want to go ahead and start complaining and talking about things that go on with WWE and it's so much better than AEW. Okay, but remember, I'm going to just say this like this: AEW is not going to grow their numbers over 1 million viewers, while WWE is struggling to get 2 million viewers for their shows. Okay, if WWE can't pull 2 million viewers consistently on Raw, and they can consistently pull 3 million viewers on SmackDown, which is the thresholds right now where they're at. And my point right there exactly is the fact that for years, WWE rested on their laurels. And for roughly 20 years, after the Attitude Era, they basically just rested on the fact that, we got all these part-timers, all these stars from the yesteryear that can keep coming back whenever we need them, and we just move along with who we have and not really build for the future. Because they didn't. They didn't build for the future. I mean, you got to ask yourself, what have they really done with themselves to really, make people care and engage? There hasn't been much. I mean, still one thing to be said where the bloodline was such an anomaly and why we talked about it so much at the start of the year. Because remember, once I start doing in a couple of weeks after Survivor Series, as soon as Survivor Series War Games is done, we start doing the best of. And about 90% of my talk is going to be bloodline. Do you understand that? When we review, we're going to talk a whole lot of bloodline because that's one of the best things we had all year. And the audience was there for it. And talk about viral. Listen, Roman Reigns is recognizable as a name for sports fans, for a lot of people in general. They know who Roman Reigns is. Your everyday layman person knows who Roman Reigns is. They've probably heard of him. Maybe they heard of him as the tribal chief, the head of the table. They might have heard those things about him, but they'll know, and they'll heard of bloodline. So some people are going to actually have heard about this. Some people might actually have caught on and started paying attention to wrestling again because this, as I said months ago, one of the best storylines that WWE has ever done, ever, as good or if better than the Attitude Era, than anything. Okay, the Bloodline in its heyday, everything with Sami Zayn, everything with the Bloodline and between the Usos and Roman Reigns, that shit is more compelling than Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. That's how I feel about it. More compelling than anything that The Rock did with the Nation of Domination, the corporate ministry, the invasion angle, all that shit. None of it. It pales in comparison to what the Bloodline is. I'm not afraid to say that. And I'm an old school wrestling fan. The Bloodline, to me, is just as, it had a better run than the NWO. And dare I say, a much longer run than the NWO. Is it really that hard to go and replicate that and do more like that? Like, is it too much to feel like we're going to blow out our water if we're trying to go and put out too much? No. But we could absolutely have more storylines like that. Why does it have to be just regulated to one? See, the mentality that Vince McMahon had was we had to have that one main event star at the very top. The headliner, who's going to put asses in seats. The other thing that they've been doing, which is fine for wrestling fans, is good for house shows. Yeah, you got catchphrases and gimmicks and things like that everybody can go ahead and sing along and do chants with. And yeah, it's a good experience for the fans to go to the watch at the arenas. So that's why the arenas are doing so well, because there's stuff to watch at the arenas that are engaging and people want to go buy tickets to go watch the event over there. That's the biggest thing we've gotten. Because I guarantee you gate prices have gone up. The amount of fans engaged in watching wrestling. See, wrestling fans, wrestling is booming right now, especially because of the fact that they're going to bigger arenas. I mean, WWE right now consistently can go to bigger arenas right now. They're going to go overseas once again. They're going to go to what? Paris and Germany, Australia next year. Okay, they're going to do more big events going on in Philadelphia. I mean, think about it. They're doing stadium shows pretty consistently across the board. And then, what does the TV audience have? What does the TV product have? That's at the scale of all that. Like, the kind of engagement that people can have at a house show is a different thing than what you're going to have to engage you on TV. It's enough that you're doing stuff on TV that you can go and clip up and put up on social media, and that will get engagement, sure. But what is a TV product doing to keep people engaged for 2 hours at a time or 3 hours at a time? And that goes for the WWE and AEW. And I would love comments on this. Listen, if you're listening on the YouTube at King of Podcasts, if you've been listening this far, please comment what you think that WWE or AEW could be doing to better their TV product. That would not just make you say, I got to sit and watch every damn minute of the show. That I can't get up to go take a piss. I can't get up to go grab a snack. I can't get up to go order DoorDash. No, give me something. And both of these companies got money. They got people. They got creative. They got ideas. What are they waiting for? Build up interest. Okay. Because, well, you know, the NBA or the NFL, they all have all these characters and all these different people on different teams. Doesn't mean that WWE can't just do something to kind of figure out that same kind of motive, that same kind of feeling. Let me go back to 2019 again, because it's one thing when these companies motivate themselves. And it did for a while, because when you had Dynamite up against NXT, yeah, you had quite compelling programming. And a couple of times they go after each other. Oh, okay, so WWE had that one night where they were on Tuesday nights, Dynamite was, so they built up NXT to win it. Okay, but what else? The truth is, I'll tell you like this. You know how we always talk about with Bischoff every once in a while would do hot shot bookings and that Vince would do the same thing? We need hot shot booking all the time on TV in order for it to thrive. But that is not sustainable. So if you can't hot shot book every week, okay, we can't have a Dynamite Grand Slam every week. We can't have, you know, a Raw anniversary show. We can't have certain things where we could just have like a, you know, King of the Ring tournament all in one night. I mean, think about it. What's going to actually engage the TV audience? You need something at the level of what, let's say, like, you know, when WWE had Saturday Night's main event. Saturday Night's main event, or let's say for AEW, let's say, or no, excuse me, for WCW, they had Clash of the Champions, right? Clash of the Champions is Saturday Night's main event. Great example. Those two shows, what you used to get on a quarterly basis on those events, that's what you need to be doing now every week on television to get people to come in and watch on a regular basis to build the numbers up. But they're not. But you know what? Talking about this for the last 50 minutes, that's a great analogy. If you want the TV product to get up there, and by the way, I'm going to pick a clip on this. Let me make sure I read this out real quick. I'm going to say this nicely so that I put this on a clip and you're going to hear it all over social media. Do you want WWE and AEW to fix their TV product because it's stale? It doesn't keep you engaged enough? What WWE needs to do is they need to create Saturday Night's main event every week. The level of stars, the level of matches, the level of excitement. And AEW needs to do Clash of the Champions like WCW did in the same vein. And that's what you got to do. You can't tell me I'm wrong. This is the way it needs to be. If you want the TV product to be better, overall, what do you do to get there? What do you do to make WWE act like Saturday Night's main event? What do you do to make AEW act like Clash of the Champions? Build out shows like that. Because let me tell you, when AEW pulls these special events, when they do a Grand Slam, it is like that. It totally is like that. What about when they do like a Blood and Guts night? Or, pick it. When they do those specialty nights, they really do pull off something great. If they're at like a big arena and they have to really pull off something big, they do that too. But what do you do then if you're WWE right now and you're saying, okay, well, what are you going to do to go ahead and build up that level of excitement? Because that's the only way you're going to get audiences back to watch the TV product. And by the way, you need to worry about that because, listen, you might have gotten the deals right now. Okay, SmackDown stays on USA. Raw, they still have to figure out where they're going to go next. And the kind of money they're going to get. And the fact of the matter is that they're going to still stay on some kind of television where you don't have to go ahead and have just the internet to stream it. You don't have to use a streaming service. You can still watch it on cable or regular network TV. Right? At this moment, we don't know what's going to happen to them if they're going to have a network TV outlet or if it's going to be all cable like AEW has. But while they're on cable, you need to create event television. Event television like Saturday Night's Main Event and Clash of the Champions. That's what you got to do. You just can't put a show on that just has a couple of choice clips and you think that's going to be enough to keep people around. Because remember, you used to have a whole bunch of main eventers on Raw and a whole bunch of main eventers on Nitro. Spread them all around. You had more than enough reason to keep watching because eventually you're going to catch one of the stars you want to see. We don't have that now on either brand, on either promotion. And that's one of the major factors you have right now. Once they figure that out, and once they figure out that for the wrestling fans, that's what you need to do. To get the full engagement again, that's what you need to do. The second thing you need to do is you need to get the audience to really latch on to some characters that are really like, wow, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people are paying attention. Now, don't get me wrong, the wrestlers are doing their best to do engagement. Let me tell you, when I saw a clip with, what was it, the Jack Harlow Whips and Chains thing, right? Love It Like Me, right? And who was it? It was Nia Jax and two other people. Oh, Nia Jax, Damian Priest, and somebody else. And Shayna Baszler to the side. And everybody's kind of doing the whole Jack Harlow thing, right? The White Boy Winter thing. And Shayna Baszler gets, muffed by it. And she gets all like frustrated. And she's like, walks away. And it's funny as shit. Right? Like there's things where the wrestlers can do things to continue to be engaged, but like the wrestling product needs to do that too. It just can't be, it's nice to see the connection of the characters. Like, okay, even with Liv Morgan, she's doing stuff out there and continues to keep people like engaged with what she's doing over there. But it's also got to be, what does the TV product do that does the same thing that these wrestlers do? Like there's one thing that these wrestlers can do as individual creators to get people to engage to their content. But what is the company they work for doing to do the same thing? We could probably kind of contemplate this when I did the best of stuff, and we can start pointing out what things they did right that really did move the needle on people paying attention to what they had. The actual social engagement. And not just social engagement. We need engagement for the TV shows. They got to do something. Listen, when it comes to Impact Wrestling, now becoming TNA, one of the things they did this year is they consistently always had certain stars across the board that they had. Like, okay, if it was Mickey James, if it was Tommy Dreamer, if it was Bully Ray, if they want to have, Deonna Purrazzo, or they want to have Trinity all across the board, or Nick Aldis, like they were spreading whatever stars they had across the board. And they did what they could. And for AEW, they're doing that right now because tonight wasn't so much like that because you think about it. When they were getting their stuff set up for that, I'm trying to think when they set up for AEW, normally you'll see like, okay, here's Orange Cassidy, and here's Darby Allin. And, you know, they take some of these younger pillar stars that pop a rating and they just sprinkle them across the show. And it works. And sometimes you see the matches, the nights they do really well. But anyway, they're not doing that yet. All right, I haven't talked at all about Full Gear, but we need to do that right now. Starting off, Kia Forum, Los Angeles, 8 o'clock start, Saturday night. We will be doing a post show right here, kingofpodcasts.com. A stacked card. A new AEW signing will be announced at Full Gear. We'll learn about that. On top of that, you have the TBS title. Chris Statlander will take on Julia Hart and Sky Blue. With Julia Hart and Sky Blue, we're sure something's going to happen between those two that somehow will cancel out Chris Statlander. And I'm going to say Julia Hart wins the damn TBS title. And she'll carry that on Collision with House of Black. I'm calling it right now. Julia Hart will beat Chris Statlander. In a triple threat, Statlander will not be the one that probably will be pinned, but that's where I think things go. AEW Tag Team titles, you got a 4-way. Ricky Starks and Big Bill defend against La Facción Ingobernable with Rush and Dralistico, FTR, and House of Black. I don't think Ricky Starks and Big Bill are going to hold on to this for much longer. So I'm going to take House of Black to take the tag team titles. Golden Jets will take on the Young Bucks. I'll take the Golden Jets. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho over the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. Texas Death Match, Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page. This is tough. I'm going to pick Swerve Strickland on this one. I think they're going to really try to build Swerve Strickland to be farther up the card. That's the plan. International title, Orange Cassidy against Jon Moxley. Shit. Oh, I'm going to take Cassidy for the win. Akira Shida versus Tony Storm. I love it. Love it. So I think Tony Storm takes the belt. I feel like Tony Storm will take the belt. There's something about that character that really stands out. I think there's going to be something more we're going to watch about her in this whole mix, which I'm looking forward to. Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne. So it doesn't matter if Christian Cage or Luchasaurus or Nick Wayne loses. I think the faces will win. I think Sting's going to continue to go ahead and go out on a up note as he goes out there before he gets to his retirement. So I think Sting does really well, and I think they win that match. MJF and an unnamed partner against the Guns, and I'll take MJF to retain the Ring of Honor tag team titles. And MJF against Jay White for the AEW World title. And I'll take MJF to win that too. That's where I look at everything right there. All of it in one shot. Good stuff. So a great pay-per-view coming up this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and catch it. Hopefully in the movie theater. So if you're in Royal Palm Beach, the Regal, Stadium 18, catch me there. But in the meantime, that's the show for tonight. As always, thank you for listening in and finding the show. If you haven't done so, please make sure you're going to follow me on all social media. I'll put clips up on the show over there. X, Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, and TikTok, all those places. And more importantly, the website is kingofpodcasts.com. Make sure to go ahead and bookmark it so you never go and miss what's going on with the show. Catch all new episodes. And the post show this weekend, which again, kingofpodcasts.com. You'll find it there this Saturday night. And until we talk after Full Gear, enjoy Full Gear. Come back for another Wrestling Is Real podcast. Because wrestling needs us.